Hey, I'm your host Miko, and this is going to be a little less serious of a video. Today we're just going to have some fun. We are tier listing BeamNG's various maps. I've loved this game for a while and I've clocked a good amount of hours on it, so I thought I'd throw my hand to the ring on comparing them. Everyone's compared the cars, but no one's really compared the maps, and that's half of the experience on this game. Don't worry though, we'll get to the vehicles someday. We are going to be sorting these maps in alphabetical order. So, to start it off, we're going to have the Automation Test Track. The Automation Test Track is pretty unique because it's actually based around the collaboration between BeamNG and Automation, the car company tycoon game. But it is still a really good map. Central to it, it has a test track. Who would have guessed? Wow. But this test track isn't as good as you would think before it being the central focus of this map. It often rewards high-powered drivetrains and isn't the perfect way to shake down a vehicle. It is great for track racing, but I can't imagine a company actually using it to test how vehicles would perform in the real world. Thankfully, there's other sections of the map that make up for it. A good example of this is the separate handling circuit. The handling circuit is so fun to drive. It's chock full of elevation changes, so it matches more realistic road conditions. It's not the best for track racing due to the frequency of corners and how tight the track is, but it is really good to shake down road vehicles. If you really want to actually test an automation vehicle, this is where I would do it. The handling circuit is some of the most fun you can have in terms of BeamNG's driving. Right beside the handling circuit, you have the off-road/rally circuits. These are super fun to drive around. While they aren't the best at testing crawling capabilities, they do show the rally performance of a vehicle well while still being in a tight spot. I will say they're pretty fun for unleashing your inner Colin McRae. However, they aren't perfect. These tracks definitely could be improved and they don't really feel like a rally course, but that was never the goal in the first place. If going on the dirt's not your thing, you can also have a more asphalt rally experience in the form of this mountain road. It is really good for downhill toge style action, however you can also go up it for a more hill climb focused experience. While it is only one road, the varying conditions on it make it quite an interesting driving experience. Once you hit the top of the mountain, there's ice sheets that can appear on the road. These ice sheets will make you lose grip very suddenly, so you gotta be really working your pedals and you gotta treat it like you're driving on eggshells. You also have the gutters on the side of the mountain roads. If you're a really experienced driver, you can use this to your advantage. And for all those straight line demons, don't worry, the Automation Test Track has you covered too. You have that airstrip and you also have the highway to race on. I prefer the airstrip personally because it's more closed off and it gives its own unique vibe that other maps don't provide. You can actually kind of treat it like a street racing thing. Because it's no prep and it's quite a short distance, you need to be really on your A game with your launch, and I really like that. While I do understand it is a test track meant to test cars, it's not really a lively map, so I'm not going to rank it too high. I'll throw it right in C. Off to a pretty good start, at least I would say so. Now on to map 2, we got Cliff. I think we can all agree that Cliff is one of the worst maps on BeamNG. I'm gonna put up a clip though, well a series of clips. There's still one good thing Cliff is like usable for. I mean it has nice water features, but even that dude, it's not like there's anything you can drive in the water, vanilla. You have the Hydra. Yeah Miko, there's nothing else bro. And boom, you just had the entire full enjoyment you could have at a Cliff. Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. Cliff serves zero purpose. They should remaster it now. Next up we got is Derby Arenas. Derby Arenas as a track is in a pretty interesting spot. It is quite old and quite small, so it's already off to a disadvantage. However, it's still a pretty good map, especially if you want to go multiplayer with it. Multi-seat, if you have enough controllers, is extremely fun on this map. Or if you want to hop on it with BeamNG, it's also pretty good. However, we're focusing on the vanilla experience here, so let's get into that mainly. One of the main things I like about this track is its weird double figure eight. One of the fun games I like to play with my friends is I'll start up a share screen and we'll play the game of which is gonna fail first, Miko or the car. With the massive jumps that this map offers, it is really interesting to see what holds up. Usually about halfway through, the oil pan breaks, radiator starts crying, I do crazy flips, and other fun things like that. If the figure eight isn't your thing, there's also an additional smaller dirt oval. While it does also have the option of doing it figure eight, the main oval is clearly what you're meant to be using. It's pretty fun to just whip around on, but again, it only gets better when you add buddies. It also features hit. The existence of the pit and the multiplayer experience do make this map C tier material, but when you're playing vanilla and alone, it's D. Next up, we have East Coast USA. I'm from the East Coast, so I'm gonna have a little bit of bias here, but I'll try and be as impartial as possible. East Coast USA, I would say, is within the top 3 for some of the best driving experiences you can get on BeamNG. There's a lot of fun corners with good elevation changes to rip around on. So if you want to just go heavy foot and have a lot of fun, you can do that. However, the map has a good amount of variety too. I really couldn't tell you why, but this map just feels optimal for drunk driving. I don't know what it is, but there's something. Here's me in the D series absolutely ripping it. I'm just gonna let y'all enjoy the music and just let me absolutely tear up in this thing. While the driving feel of East Coast is great, it is everything but a one-trick pony. Me personally, I really like the network of crawling trails all over the map. They're rocky and have a good bit of dirt too, but they aren't too difficult. A well-tuned car can get through them just fine. Because this map has a lot of asphalt roads and various gas stations to stop at, you can often RP the off-roading, going in between each of the trails and having a little rest stop in between. So if you have a car that can do both, i.e. with like locking diffs and some more road going tires, you can have some pretty good fun on East Coast because those builds will be more than capable, even if they aren't 100% an off-road monster. Hey, pro gamer tip from Miko here. You know how like IKEA can fix relationships for some reason, like taking a girl to IKEA with you just always seems to work? Dude, East Coast works like that with friend groups, bro. If you get a nice RP going with this and some good off-roaders, bro, that's the ultimate bonding experience. Don't tell anyone I told you this though, okay? Miko community trade secret. Y'all got that? Don't worry. If you don't like going slow off-road, there's the sawmill area which allows you to really rip around your cars. It's all flat, compacted dirt with some extra jumps thrown in there, because who doesn't love that? You also have some various other roads around the map, but the real central focus is on this sawmill because the various jumps and routes you can take. This map is a jack of all trades yet a master of none. I think it's a very solid A tier. Definitely can be improved on, just a little bit of loving would make it S. Next up, we got a far simpler map, the ETK Driver Experience Center. While this map is quite small, the lore on it's quite big. Considering the fact that ETK is the BMW equivalent for BeamNG, this track is actually based off of BMW's real-life test track they use in Germany. It also has references to Nürburgring Castle, which is central to the Nürburgring. Much like its real-life location, this map has a lot of spots to purposely hydroplane your car. So if you want to see how it handles at the limit, this is a perfect map to do it on, because it's one of the few maps that has these special surfaces. Despite this being the sort of experience center for this, the driving isn't really the best on this map. The fun roads are few and far between. While they are there, they are quite short. There's also a small section of highway cutting through the map, so if you really want to be an ETK driver, this is the place to do it.
Yo, my guy got that new downpipe tune on his shit. Yo, look at him. He's sliding it too. Yo. Ooh. Yo, bro. You okay? Yo. My allowance.
Honestly, if I had to give my opinion on this location, it's a whole lot of mid. I think D tier is a solid place for it. Up next, we got Grid Map V2, the replacement to the beloved original Grid Map. It's also one of the younger maps on this list. Hey, it's our first map with an actual drag strip that measures your time and has a prepped surface. You gotta take advantage of these because there aren't a lot in BeamNG. I will say, Grid Map V2 is a pretty good drag strip. It's completely flat and the runoff is more than good enough. So it's actually pretty good to drive on. I'm looking at you, Hirochi Raceway. Not too far from the drag strip, there are various spots to drift your car. While I will say these areas are very wide and open, almost too open to be driftable, they're still pretty good spots if you have enough horsepower and the right rubber to do so. In fact, I personally learned how to drift on BeamNG in these spots. Grid Map has always been the de facto way to showcase BeamNG's physics. It also shows off how realistic the car models are and how advanced everything is when it comes to BeamNG.
Introducing the Burnside Special. The Burnside Special is the family vehicle with a hard-working edge, featuring a powerful inline-six engine and our new anti-explosion fuel tank technology, making sure you, the missus, and everyone else is safe. It also features our terrain glide technology. The terrain glide technology means that even off-road, you don't feel the bumps. So it's smooth sailing from here to there. As you can now see, Burnside has truly made the next step in automotive technology. Burnside Special, the family man's workhorse.
Grid Map V2 has even more in the way of physics. There's various sort of stunts that you can hit around Grid Map V2. These stunts make for amazing clips to show off to your friends, and also just as fun spots to drive around. If you have a car with good enough downforce, please consider driving these. Grid Map V2 is basically BeamNG's skate park. While there is a way that something should be hit, find your own line and do what you want, because this map is really full freedom with BeamNG's amazing physics. The only real problem with this map is its scenery. It does almost everything else perfect. Gotta give it B. Up next, we got Hirochi Raceway. You're not gonna believe why it's called Hirochi Raceway. It has a raceway. Who would have guessed? Hirochi Raceway is a pretty fun track though. I will say, I think it's better than the Automation Test Track, just because the frequency of the corners and the fact that they're quite varied. I will say the track is quite downforce biased because it has a lot of high speed corners, but I don't really see that as problematic. I'd rather have it benefit something related to cornering than something related to performance. Hirochi Raceway also features some other goodies around it. One of the main examples is this oval / figure 8 track. There's a little jump that you can hit in it, and also because the way it's designed, if you get a good drift build, you can absolutely tear it up sideways. This is very similar to the double figure 8 that you can find on derby arenas. If you get some buddies together, you can have some pretty good fun. Or you can go solo and torture test cars. Either way, it's a solid addition to the map. This is part of the elite club of BeamNG maps that have a proper quarter-mile drag strip. I will say the surface here is quite bumpy though, so don't expect to be getting any record times here. One good thing about this map though is that you can RP it quite well, because the runoff is long enough and it's actually a hill, so you can be pretty safe. Another rare feature that Hirochi Raceway offers is a proper crawling location. While I would definitely say it's one of the worst options when it comes for crawling, it's still an extra choice, and I gotta give it some respect for that. The crawling course here is pretty unique because it's an artificial course, so you'll see objects placed around it to purposely test off-road vehicles. I don't imagine how this could be used in any real life reason, so I guess I just threw a Hirochi Sunburst on here, kept it a CVT by the way, and threw some off-road wheels on it. I don't see why the map needs it, but hey, options is options, and especially for crawling, I'll take anything I can get. While this map doesn't really have the best or most unique experiences, I gotta say, it's still pretty good and it offers a lot of experiences that are quite rare, so I think B tier is a good spot. Up next, we got Industrial. Industrial has a pretty unique vibe. While it is coastal, it's still an abandoned industrial complex. And if you know anything about abandoned locations, you'll know that a good parking lot is a drifter's paradise, and this map is no different. When it comes to BeamNG drifting, I would say this map is easily one of the best locations to do it at. You also have the existence of a proper drift track on this map. It also has a crazy banking if you want to hit that, but the curbing and other spots around it make it a pretty good spot to test out your drifting ability. And it is decently tandemable. And if you're really feeling special, this map also features a slight jump drift. The parking lot here is another one of my favorite drift spots, and I'm not even showing you the full extent. To the right of the camera, there's even better spots to hit. I am really selling this map short though. My skills are not good enough when it comes to drifting. This map isn't even half bad when it comes to the off-road experience. There's a lot of artificial jumps around the map, and you can have some pretty good fun around it. Let's break it down for you. We're gonna get industrial on industrial. I gotta say, the more I played this map, the more I like it. Honestly, I think C tier is a good spot. It's good, but definitely can be better. Up next, we got Italy. Italy, I think, is the quintessential best driving experience on BeamNG. Me trying to describe it's a waste, because it's a mix of beautiful countryside and the corners just being so well designed. Alright, let's focus back up. Italy also features an airstrip, and much like the airstrip found in the automation test track, this is a no prep surface that is a good spot to do some high speed runs. You definitely can't reach your car's top speed here, but you can still have some pretty good pulls. Recently, Italy got an update to add this new quarry area, and I think it was really nice because it added some pretty good rally roads to hit. Or if you want to be blue collar, I guess you can do that. How about you just get a job in real life? In my personal experience, one of my favorite things to do on Italy is to take a baby blue Piccolina that's been lightly tuned and just drive it around the map. It's my own personal tune, but really, just drive a slow car fast on this map. You'll thank me later. I think Italy is our first S tier map. It is just such a good driving experience, and it's a pretty well designed map with a good environment. What's there not to love? Up next, we got Johnson Valley.
He said John.
Johnson Valley is an absolutely huge BeamNG map, if not one of the biggest. Despite its size, there's not many roads for you to really rally race on. However, if you get creative, you can have some pretty good fun. I mean, this map is a literal sandbox, so if you can think of something to do in the sand here, it'll probably work just fine. Or there's at least a spot to try it. Oh, the race I'm doing here, by the way, I think it's called like Backyard Bangers or something. I was blasting Primus during the whole thing. Jerry was a race car driver, had to have been designed for this map, I swear. Being completely honest, I thought Johnson Valley wasn't the best off-roading / crawling experience. While I would say it's one of the most expansive off-road maps, I originally didn't like it when it came to crawling. But now that I actually got footage for the video, I have a newfound appreciation. This map has so many good roads, and I feel like I barely scratched the surface. It's not even the fact that the roads themselves are good, it's that there's so many of them with so many to choose from. If you don't like the rocky terrain on one route, okay, go to a different one that might be easier to drive. If you don't like how easy that one is to drive, well then we can step it up to something harder. This map is so good when it comes to off-roading. I really forgot how nice it is. In this map, there is some huge Baja inspiration here. I gotta say, having a good trophy truck on this map is so fun. These dunes are just begging to be torn up. While I will say the sand physics in BeamNG does make this quite hard, I would say it's pretty realistic because I doubt those trophy truck drivers are having an easy time. Even if you don't like the off-road aspect of this map, the highway on it is still pretty good. In fact, it's one of the longest in BeamNG drive, and it is just insane for top speed runs. I will say though, it is definitely not a walk in the park. Because the elevation changes and corners, you still have to have an okay handling car if you want to reach a top speed run on this highway. This map uses its out of bounds area in quite a funny way. It lets you do some sort of salt flat style runs. And I gotta say, salt flat racing is incredibly slept on. So for Beam to offer something like this is pretty nice. When I was making this video, I originally was gonna put this at B tier, but honestly, it's deserving of A. Alright, now it's time for Jungle Rock Island. Jungle Rock Island is pretty special because it's quite rare for a BeamNG map to be actually tropical. While there are maps in warmer climates, this one feels different. Even though the roads are just as tight as the ones found on Italy, for example, with how the trees are and the grass, it feels a lot more tighter. And I will say that's not as bad as a thing as you would think. It makes the map feel a lot more immersive because you really just sit there and focus on the road ahead. It also creates a nice color contrast. When it comes to off-road exploring, I think this map is easily one of, if not the best maps to do it on BeamNG. This map is chock full of things to explore. Little spots in the environment, little outcrops to watch the oceanic view, or just to see the beauty of nature in BeamNG. You wouldn't really think it from a driving game, but this map is beautiful. Much like Johnson Valley, this map allows you to have a variety of routes you can take off-road, and by extension, a variety of cars. I used a lightly modified Abishu Miramar here, and this thing is rear-wheel drive, low torque, low grip. It is not a good off-roader at all. Yet, it still did more than fine enough for me. However, there are some trails on this map where a real off-roader can be super fun because they're muddy and rocky. This map is full of so many points of interest. You have observatories, a lighthouse, you have an airstrip too even, and then there's various industrial buildings around the map. It starts to get the gears turning on what this place was before you started to drive around it. But even then, the exploration on this map is top notch. I wish I could explore it again for the first time. When it comes to asphalt driving on this map, it blows. There's nothing really special going on. While you do have a couple of roads to do some sort of toge on, they're few and far between. And even then, other maps are just better for that. Because of this map having such great trails, it also accidentally got some really good rally spots. Dude, these roads are so fun to hit. They have jumps, hairpins, and even some sketchy sections too. They got everything. I think that Jungle Rock Island is one of the best rally maps on BeamNG, and they don't even really acknowledge it. This map has been mostly forgotten by the BeamNG devs and the Beam community, but I really think it should be remembered more. A tier for sure. Next up is a map of literally nothing. Small Grid. Small Grid. So peaceful, so open. Just me, the sun, and what in the world was that? Ever heard of the phrase less is more? This map is the less, and because of that, it offers more. There is 0 objects on this map. You have just flat ground and infinite expanse. Despite that, this map is pretty good because of that. If you want to test like a modded car, for example, or even just a vanilla BeamNG car, the fact that this map is so open means you can really do whatever the hell you want. Whether it's putting objects around and having them smack into each other, or you can use it to go absolutely balls to the wall with your top speed runs. As you can see here, here's my top speed BX, all vanilla Beam by the way, with its body still on. I think she's pretty quick, 300 miles per hour is nothing to scoff at. Miko, this map is literally empty, there's nothing on it. If you put this anything above F, I am going to lose it.
How about I do anyway?
Oh. Alright, now in our last 3. Starting off with Small Island. Starting off small. See what I did there? Yeah, that was funny, right? This video officially has a kill count of 2 now. Interesting, for it being a driving game with no people. Anyways, forget about it. Small Island has a pretty good asphalt driving experience. While there is only like one central road to hit, it is extremely fun. The undulating corners add a lot of layers to this, and on top of the bumps, it is super fun. I will say, because the road is so low quality, it is kinda sketchy, but that sketch adds to the enjoyment. Me personally, I treat this a lot like Italy. Drive a slow car fast on this. You'll thank me later. I'm telling you, the experience is great. Just because this map is good on-road doesn't mean it's bad off-road. This map is no slouch when it comes to having some pretty good trails. I will say they are few and far between, and they aren't the most difficult nor the most easy. They're a perfect moderate difficulty. I have a very lightly built Ibishu hopper here, and it was able to do all these trails just fine. All I did was remove the sway bars, put some tires on it, and air them down. That's all you really need to do. On this map, it values skill a lot more than the car. I will say though, all these trails end in the same way. Almost all of them end up with you getting to the top of the mountain. And while that is fun, that makes the experience get dry quite quickly. The outskirts of this map are pretty good to hit too. You have some various trails, but the main thing that I personally found the most enjoyable was the jumps. If you have a really good foot control, you can actually take all of these jumps beautifully in the right car. This map isn't half bad, but its problem lies in the name. It's small. Best I can do for it's really C tier. Here is our second to last map. Here is Utah. Amongst the community, Utah is the de facto crawling map of BeamNG. You don't even need to be off-road to crawl. Here is me on a sign, for example. This map is so good for crawling. With Utah, it's a mix of 3 big things that make it such a good crawling map. It has A, a lot of trails, B, a good scenery, and C, the trails here are pretty difficult. These aren't some walk in the park kind of trails. You have to actually be a pretty good driver and have a good build to do them. Much like Jungle Rock Island, this map is super good to explore. You have various mine shafts that you can have some pretty good fun on, albeit they aren't always the safest. Thank God it's BeamNG though, because I'm gonna be honest, there's at least 1 or 2 OSHA violations in these mine shafts. Utah does have an asphalt experience, but I definitely can tell that it's not the focus of the map. You have 1 big central highway and then a couple offshoot roads from it. These offshoot roads aren't bad and the highway itself is okay, but then again, they just aren't as good as some other maps. While I would say this map is average to below average when it comes to being on-road, its off-road experience more than makes up for it. A tier. For the final map that we're going to be ranking, it is West Coast USA. Throughout this video, I've commended a lot of maps for either being very large or having a large amount of things in them. No map though does it as good as West Coast USA. This map is big, yet equal parts dense. I think it's one of the densest maps in BeamNG. And I don't mean dense as an insult, it's a huge compliment. Every single corner of this map has something interesting going on. Every corner feels unique, there's POIs across the map, and there's tons of activities to do, of varying quality of course. The first thing you'll notice about West Coast USA is its city. It's very comparable to San Francisco. It has a lot of hills, and it's just a general pretty good place to rip around. I will say, the hills are both a curse and a blessing. They do allow you to do some pretty sick jumps, but sometimes you don't really want to do a jump. This city is remarkably easy to navigate because it's basically on a grid pattern the whole way around. While there are a couple breaks from this grid, it mostly stays the same. However, there's layers to this city. There's a lot of cut-through points, hidden garages, and other interesting parts of it that you can use to your advantage. So it's not all about just being a fast driver around 90-degree turns. Map knowledge helps a lot here too. Whether it be driving solo or doing a police chase, this city is infinitely better with the urban traffic. It just adds so many layers to it. Here we have Miko in a potentially stolen bastion to give us the sort of rundown of the city. I'm just ripping around it. You guys can kind of get a feel for the place. Even if you aren't a useless delinquent, this map is still pretty good for a more working man's kind of vibe. What it has is a lot of logistics areas, and with that, a lot of areas to RP you doing some sort of delivery. Whether it can be something small scale, like a restaurant thing, or something large scale, like a crate. I will say, there is a reason that this map is used for career mode. There are just so many spots in it that make sense for you to do some sort of logistics work. Sticking with the logistics theme, let's talk about Spearleaf Island. Spearleaf Island has some pretty good roads to drive, but what it's really good for is drifting. There's so many parking lots with various obstacles that if you want to slide a car, there's probably a spot on here to do it. You even have a roundabout at the lighthouse, so if you want to go for a full tilt, wrap around something, that's a perfect spot to do it at. Me personally, I really like this refinery area over here, just because there's so many different routes you can take through it, and yet it's still a good slow speed controlled slide. West Coast USA has some really good driving roads. You have these two sort of redwood forest areas. While they aren't a full-on toge nor a mountain pass, they're still extremely fun to hit. While they are short drives, again, super nice. They have very good corners and good elevation changes, so they do challenge you as a driver. However, they're not too difficult nor too punishing. There's often a good amount of runoff and leniency. Connected to one of these redwood forests is a proper mountain pass. It's right in between the quarry and the Belasco garage. Over here, there's this radio tower. There are two main routes up and down the mountain. Both of these are extremely fun to hit. Yet, they're each unique experiences from each other. One is a tighter experience with a lot of hairpins, and the other requires you to have some proper throttle control and really go flat out where you need to. Both of these roads are extremely fun to hit. And actually, you can hit both and the redwood forest in a consecutive lap with minimal usage of the highway. This little section of the map is a sort of racetrack if you want to go for a more street focused vibe. This is actually a pretty good segue into what I think is West Coast's pride and joy. It is easily one of the best places to enjoy almost every single discipline of motorsport, whether it be on tarmac or dirt. West Coast USA has one huge racetrack running through it. I will say, it may not be the best racetrack in BeamNG, but it's still pretty good for a map that has so many other features. It even has other routes built into the racetrack. So if you don't like the one that you're using, just switch it up. One detail I like about this racetrack that I really like the BeamNG devs for is that they made it one way. And what this means is that the AI actually race on it properly. All you need to do is put a waypoint at where you want them to go, and they will race the racetrack. Usually they'll often go the wrong way around because it's the more efficient route. But thankfully, in this case, the AI aren't smart enough for that. And what that means is that you can host their own races here. Here I have a sort of DTM, JGTC touring car race. You have Chevettas, Pessimas, and even the Brucka Legrand. Not too long ago, BeamNG added this drift track into West Coast USA. It's nestled right in the motorsports area. While that is nice to have a drift track, it is extremely small. But it's out of necessity. They really couldn't fit anything much bigger in here without fundamentally changing the map. The drift track is still pretty nice and it's very efficient on space. There's a lot of routes you can take through it. And I will say the elevation change on it is both a curse and a blessing. I really don't like drifting downhill, but when you get to the uphill section of this, it is super nice. Another one of the additions to West Coast USA was some various rally roads not too far from this other feature, which I'm about to tell you soon. These roads are nice, and again, they're pretty efficient. There's a lot of different routes you can take through it, but they definitely aren't the best quality. They are just okay to hit. I will say, the camber in some of these turns is insane, but then again, you're not getting a proper rally experience. I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses of West Coast USA. So that special feature I was telling you, it's a drag strip, and I think it's the best one on BeamNG, just because it both looks nice and runs nice. The one issue with this drag strip is that there's not really a good runoff, but what the BeamNG devs don't tell you is that that's secretly a ramp. Just absolutely send it off of it. You'll be laughing, I'm telling you. Beyond the rally courses, this map has two main dirt tracks, the first of which is a dirt oval. It's a very big dirt oval for BeamNG standards. It even has a figure 8 option in the middle if you're feeling it. Now, I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but you can actually fit a full-size school bus on this track. Again, not saying you should do that, I'm just saying it could be very fun. The other dirt track on this map is this corner-heavy, almost motocross style track. It has a lot of bumps and a jump in it. This jump acts like a pretty good filter between the boys and the men, or more likely the slow and the fast. You have to be very good at this track to have some proper fun on it. So what that means is you gotta really rip the e-brake and let your car slide out. However, don't push your luck too much because there's walls on either end of you. I personally am really good at this track when it comes to the V6 Pessima. if you're in a West Coast lobby and you see a guy named Miko, do not challenge me on this track, because I will destroy you in this Pessima. Assuming we're keeping with derby cars. And assuming you're not crazy good at this game. And assuming I don't mess up. And assuming you catch me in a good mood. And assuming it's Tuesday. And assuming it's that I'm trying too hard at the joke right now. Cutting West Coast USA in half is this huge, high-speed highway. That's Chevette engine, more than you can afford. Yeah. No, bro, I'll race you, I got that. He in fact did not have that. Randy later returned the rental, saying that he despised the vehicle for being so slow. He proceeds to cry to himself as he will never be as cool as the Ibishu owner. West Coast USA has a lot of good hangout spots. The various parking lots allow you to just present all your builds together, whether it be alone or with buddies. They also provide a lot of good photo opportunities. So where do I put West Coast USA? I think it's an easy S tier. It's a community favorite, and there's clearly a reason why. Well, that's all the maps ranked. Let's break it down. In F tier we got Cliff, very deservedly. D tier we have the Derby Arenas and the ETK Testing Center. In C tier we got the Automation Test Track, Industrial, and Small Island. In B tier we have Grid Map V2, Hirochi Raceway, and Small Grid. In A tier, our biggest tier, we have East Coast USA, Johnson Valley, Jungle Rock Island, and Utah. For S tier, we have Italy and West Coast USA. I think this is a pretty fair and reasonable list. You can debate me on some of these. For example, Small Grid might be too high, for example. And I know a lot of people had a problem with my ranking on Utah, amongst my friend group at least. But hey, if you have a problem with this, hit me up in the comments. We all hear the music, we all know what's happening. Peace! Damn, made it to the end again. Gotta say, I spent a lot of time on this video. Again, I remember, I told myself, hey, Miko, let's make something small here. You know, we don't have to go all out on every project. Well, here we are, going all out on every project. What, 40 minutes? Dude, Miko making a short video and being on a timely schedule is just impossible. It's scope creep. Because I always want to do more, and because I always want to do more, the videos just get longer and longer. Sometimes I do kind of inflate the video's length because I do extremely long shots, but at the same time, I feel like they're funnier that way. Like the long shot jokes are meant to, you know, just be like, what? Really? Because silence is pretty good in comedy, you know? Anyways, here are my 3 favorite bloopers from this video. Later, I'm gonna have a membership exclusive version of this video. I don't know when I'm starting the memberships, but they will be there. And when they do, you're gonna get the extended cut of this video. There's actually a few deleted scenes, and you will notice the voice lines don't match my original plan too. That's just a little tidbit thrown in there. There'll be other goodies on the membership, but I'm not gonna tell you in this video. The original purpose of Grid Map has always been to help showcase the physics and tech in BeamNG. This still stays today. In fact, it's one of my personal favorite spots to do durability tests on cars or see how it's going to react in specific scenarios, because there's no other variables that will affect how the car is. That's an actual blooper. Whew. That was struggling to speak blooper. Man. Not too far from the drag strip, you also have some various spots to drift. While these spots are very wide and open, they aren't bad spots to practice. In fact, when I was learning drifting for the first time in BeamNG, this is where I went to practice. This exact circle right here, in this exact Grand Marshal. Hey, the Grand Marshal is my personal favorite drag car. Drag? I mean, it's good in drag too. You know a weird thing? Drag cars and drift cars go hand in hand, don't they? It's weird, right? Huh.
Add that one to the blooper reel.
Well, would you look at that? An actual map with a drag strip. These are very few and far between for BeamNG, so we gotta take advantage of them while we can. I will say the Gridmap V2 drag strip, while the scenery is quite boring, is very flat and actually good to race on. So if you want to like a no frills, like a